What happens when a fairy tale becomes a crime scene? When a dream of love and luxury, played out at 40,000 feet, plummets into a nightmare of betrayal, bloodshed, and a disappearance that defies all logic? This is a story that begins in the gilded cages of private jets and ends in the unforgiving darkness of the Alps. A story where the line between victim and villain is as thin as the air at cruising altitude, and where the only witness was the vast, empty sky. This is the true crime mystery of Avri Cole and Kamal Al-Zarani. A case that involves a powerful billionaire, a flight attendant who dared to love him, a single gunshot in a pressurized cabin, and a suspect who vanished into thin air. If you're fascinated by true crime stories that involve the elite, where the secrets are as deep as the bank accounts and the crimes are as impossible as they are brutal, you need to hit that subscribe button. We investigate the cases that defy explanation, and this one will leave you questioning everything you think you know. At 11 kilometers above the Earth, in the rarefied air where the ultra-wealthy glide between continents, discretion isn't just a luxury, it's the currency of survival. On the night of October 23rd, inside the soundproofed, opulent cabin of a Boeing 737 MAX racing towards Zurich, that currency was violently devalued. The body of Kamal Al-Zarani, a 52-year-old billionaire construction magnate, lay slumped against Italian leather seats. A single gunshot wound had torn through his chest. Blood pooled beneath his $30,000 Patek Philippe watch, which ticked on, indifferent, as his life seeped away. The cabin's ambient lighting cast long, dancing shadows across his face, once animated by the unshakable confidence of a man who owned everything he touched. But his killer was already gone. Vanished. The only evidence of their escape was the aircraft's emergency door, left open to the frigid, thin air of the Alpine night. The question that would haunt investigators from Zurich to Dubai was one of sheer impossibility. How does someone disappear from a locked metal tube, hurtling through the stratosphere? The investigation began not with a suspect, but with an absence. The plane's captain, Erik Johansson, had been sealed in his cockpit, hearing nothing over the hum of engines and his headset. When he landed in Zurich and opened the door to the passenger cabin, he was met with a scene of grotesque luxury: a dead billionaire, a spatter of blood near an open door, and no one else in sight. The only other person who should have been on board was Avri Cole, a 25-year-old flight attendant. Her uniform was found neatly folded in the aircraft's bathroom. Her personal effects, a Cartier watch, a gold bracelet, were arranged meticulously on the counter like relics at a shrine. It was as if she had simply evaporated. The Swiss Federal Police, experts in everything from financial crime to mountaineering disasters, were baffled. The crime scene was a paradox. It suggested a violent struggle, yet also a chilling, methodical cleanup. The onboard security cameras had been disabled. Forensics found fingerprints wiped with professional precision. The only clear clues were the body, the gun, a priceless, antique Ottoman pistol from Kamal's own collection, and the yawning void where Avri Cole used to be. What would you do if you were faced with a crime scene this impossible? Let us know your first theory in the comments below. To understand the end, we must go back to the beginning. Our story starts not in the skies over Switzerland, but in the sun-scorched suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona. This is where Avri Cole grew up, in a world of strip malls and fading dreams. Her mother cleaned houses for the wealthy families of Scottsdale, returning home with stories of marble countertops and walk-in closets larger than their entire apartment. Avri learned early that to escape, you had to dream bigger than your horizon. Her ticket out came in the form of a recruiting ad for Elite Airways, a Dubai-based carrier that catered exclusively to billionaires, royalty, and the powerful. They didn't just hire flight attendants, they hired ghosts, discreet, adaptable, and invisible. For Avri, ambitious and dangerously naive about the dynamics of power, it was the perfect opportunity. Meanwhile, in the glittering emirate of Dubai, Kamal Al-Zarani had built his empire one calculated move at a time. He was a man who collected people as trophies. His private office contained detailed psychological profiles of everyone in his orbit. He studied human nature like a stock portfolio, always searching for the pressure points that would give him absolute control. Their worlds collided on March 15th, aboard Elite Airways Flight 457 from Dubai to Milan. When Kamal boarded, Avri noticed him immediately. He carried an aura of power that was almost physical. And when his dark eyes met hers during the safety demonstration, the air between them shifted. He was a master of calculated charm. As she served him his breakfast, Belgian waffles with Turkish honey, exactly as specified in his passenger profile, he complimented her efficiency with words that seemed casual but felt laden with hidden meaning. "Your eyes haven't seen enough of the world," he said, his voice carrying a slight, cosmopolitan accent. He was establishing a dynamic with surgical precision, questioning her about her dreams, her ambitions, her future. By the time the plane landed in Milan, he had handed her a tip that took her breath away, $500. It was more than she made in a week at her old job. It wasn't a tip, it was a hook. And in Kamal's personal journal, next to Avri's name, he had already written 2 words that would have terrified her: perfect target. This is where the careful seduction begins. But who was really seducing whom? Was Kamal a predator, or was Avri an opportunist? The answer, as we'll see, is far more complex. What followed was a master class in manipulation disguised as serendipity. Avri found herself assigned to Kamal's flights again and again. A 7-hour trip to Paris became a subtle, prolonged test of her boundaries. He invited her to dinner. She declined, citing company policy. He smiled, as if he was already 3 moves ahead in a game she didn't know she was playing. The third flight changed everything. A delay stranded them together in London for 12 hours. When Kamal asked her for coffee, Avri said yes. Coffee became lunch. Lunch became a walk through Hyde Park. The professional barrier was crumbling. The inevitable finally happened on a flight from Dubai to Rome. In the soft, amber light of the aircraft's private suite, the space between them collapsed. The kiss felt as natural as breathing, but there was nothing innocent about it. Kamal's hands framed her face with the possessiveness of a man claiming territory. The transformation that followed was rapid and intoxicating. Avri's life became unrecognizable. Her modest company apartment was swapped for a penthouse suite at the Burj Al Arab on their secret weekends. Shopping sprees in Paris became routine. Her social media began to document a life plucked from a luxury travel magazine, earning her hundreds of likes from colleagues who couldn't understand her new, rarefied access. But this new world came with a price. Kamal gave her an encrypted phone, calling her his desert rose. He gave her lavish gifts, a diamond-studded Cartier watch that contained a GPS tracker, a Hermes bag with a listening device hidden in the lining. When she mentioned dinner with a male colleague, Kamal's response was a subtle, chilling warning. Dubai can be dangerous for young women who make poor choices. The first crack in this gilded fantasy appeared when Avri accidentally answered Kamal's phone and heard the voice of his wife, Dr. Layla Al-Zarani, a respected neurologist. The reality of her situation hit her with brutal force. She wasn't his girlfriend, she was his secret. The ensuing argument was their first real fight. She demanded transparency, honesty, some acknowledgement that what they had was real. His response was measured and devastating. You knew the terms from the beginning. I never promised you more than what we have. But by then, it was too late for her to walk away. She was in too deep. The tension is building towards an inevitable explosion. What happens when the perfect target decides to fight back? The answer is more shocking than you can imagine. 6 months into the affair, Avri Cole was a ghost of her former self. Her obsession had become a cancer. She checked his flight schedule obsessively, maneuvering to be assigned to his routes. Her friends and family were cut off. The paranoid thought that he could simply discard her one day became an obsession that kept her awake at night. The breaking point came during a weekend at his Mykonos villa. Lying on silk sheets worth more than a car, watching the sunset, Avri finally voiced the demand that had been growing for months. "Choose me," she whispered against his chest, her voice desperate. "Leave her. Leave everything. We could disappear together. Just give me 30 days to file for divorce or I walk away forever." The silence that followed was the calm before an avalanche. When Kamal finally spoke, his voice was cold enough to freeze her blood. "You're a flight attendant from Phoenix," he said, standing up with deliberate casualness. "Did you really think this was real?" He continued, his words dripping with casual cruelty, comparing her to his accomplished wife and son. "You serve drinks at 40,000 feet. But then he revealed the true depth of his calculation. "I know about the recordings," he said. He knew she had been documenting their conversations. And then, he showed her his trump card, photos of her parents' modest home in Phoenix. "Accidents happen to people who threaten my family's reputation," he said softly. Avri, however, had learned from the master. Over the months, she had collected her own insurance policy. Hidden in her apartment were recordings that went far beyond their lovers' quarrels. She had evidence of his money laundering, his dealings with known arms traffickers, his bribes to government officials on 3 continents. "Leave your wife," she said, her voice firm despite her terror. "Or I send all of this to Arab media. Your political connections, your business, your perfect family reputation, it all disappears with one phone call." She had moved from a lover to a threat. And in Kamal Al-Zarani's world, threats were not tolerated. The stage is set for a final, fatal confrontation. 2 people, locked in a private jet, with everything to lose. Who walks away? The answer lies 40,000 feet over the Swiss Alps. On October 23rd, the tension aboard Elite Airways Flight 891 to Zurich was a palpable, living thing. The manifest listed only 3 souls on board: Captain Eric Johansson, Kamal Al-Zarani, and Avri Cole, who had specifically requested the assignment. After 2 hours of flight, somewhere over Iran, the confrontation erupted. Avri found Kamal in the private lounge. "Just tell me you loved me," she pleaded, abandoning all pretense. "Tell me it was real, and I'll walk away. Just give me that." Kamal set his tablet down with the careful deliberation of a man who had already made his decision. "I love the idea of you," he said with a devastating, casual honesty. "But I will never destroy my life for it." "And I'll destroy it for you," she whispered, pulling out her phone. What happened next unfolded with the terrible inevitability of a Greek tragedy. A fight erupted over the phone that contained the evidence to destroy his empire. It was a brief, brutal struggle. The single gunshot rang out at 3:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Kamal Al-Zarani collapsed, a bullet from his own antique pistol in his chest. But instead of panicking, a cold, calculating clarity descended upon Avri. The same intelligence that got her hired by Elite Airways now focused entirely on survival. Moving with an efficiency that suggested either pre-planning or incredible presence of mind, she accessed the plane's emergency equipment, retrieved a parachute, and managed to override the safety protocols on the aircraft door. At 35,000 feet over the Swiss Alps, Avri Cole stepped into the roaring darkness and disappeared. Did she survive that desperate leap into the alpine night? The subsequent investigation only deepened the mystery. 3 days later, a torn parachute with her DNA was found tangled in pine trees near St. Moritz. A blood-stained scarf was discovered wrapped around a prepaid phone containing a single, taunting message. "The king is dead. Long live the queen." Footprints led to an abandoned ski chalet where someone had clearly sheltered. Most tellingly, investigators discovered a Swiss bank account, opened under a false name days before the murder, funded by $2.3 million transferred from an untraceable cryptocurrency wallet. Avri Cole had not just killed a man, she had seemingly planned her escape into a ghost. To this day, the mystery persists. Is Avri Cole a murderer who executed the perfect crime? Or a victim of psychological manipulation who fought back in a moment of desperate self-defense, and then executed the perfect escape? The evidence she collected, the recordings that could topple governments, has never surfaced. A digital sword of Damocles hanging over everyone who knew Kamal's secrets. Her story is a chilling reminder that the most dangerous crimes are not committed in dark alleys, but in gilded cages, between people who know each other intimately. It's a tale that proves that even at 40,000 feet, there is no escape from the darkest depths of the human heart. This case leaves us with more questions than answers. What do you believe truly happened on that plane? Was it murder, self-defense, or an elaborate setup? Share your final theory in the comments. This is a conversation that needs to continue. If you were captivated by this mystery of power, love, and impossible crime, please share this video. Subscribe and hit the bell for more deep dives into the true crime cases that leave even the experts baffled. Thanks for watching.